Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, Tucson. Hello, everybody. It is good to be back in the building, in the studio, once again. You are listening to the Fresh Start Show in Tucson. Want to say thank you to all our partners that is with us on this morning. We appreciate all of your support and all the things you have done for the city. We're so excited to once again come to you in another Saturday's weekend. And we say, get on up, get ready, get your cereal, your coffee, and
Sweater, hoodie.
whatever, sweater, hot tea, hot cocoa, whatever it is. It's the Fresh Start Show. Dr. Holt, Tom Cortez, as well as in the building. We are excited again to see you again this Saturday weekend. The weather is getting really good, in my opinion. It's not so hot. Actually, you can go into the sun and enjoy it. As a doctor, a lot of people don't know that Arizonians have some of the lowest vitamin D's levels and deficiencies in the nation because usually our sun is too hot. And vitamin D is where we get the sun is where we get our vitamin D. So when the sun is
Wild.
extremely hot, which is most of the year, we are indoors under the air condition. So we're cool, but we are lacking vitamin D3. And that has a lot to do with physical health. And certainly it has a lot to do with your mental health. Yes, I said mental health. Usually people with deficient in vitamin D3s have a difficult time regulating their emotions. Okay, so just a little tidbit for you. But we're glad to see you this Saturday morning. So good morning to everybody. You're listening to 106 The Groove here. Fresh Start Show is here. And we are once again appreciative and we are thankful for all the great things Fresh Start has been able to continue to do in the city. We got Tom in the building. What's going on, Tom?
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Pima County and Tucson, Arizona. We are starting this year. Fresh Start's going to be participating in the Market on the Move, and we're doing it out at Ajo and Mission, starting the second Saturday of January. From 6 in the morning until we run out of food, but up to 60 pounds of produce for $10 donation. And you can get some paperwork and some literature for Fresh Start and visit a church.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, we're starting with that. That's very cool, bro. I'd been arranging this for quite some time, and they believe that the Ajo and Mission area is needy for healthy food, and we're always talking about eating more healthy so you can regulate, so you can get balanced.
Yeah.
So it's very cool. Up to 60 pounds of fresh produce, bro, for $10 donation. That's beautiful, especially for families that can't go to the supermarket right now, bro. The supermarket is insane how much food costs.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, people are walking out there with 10 items in their cart, bro, and it's over $100.
Oh, most definitely.
You know, how do you take care of a
And
family?
depending on where you're shopping at, like if you're shopping at Safeway, you're shopping at some of the higher end grocery stores, you're
Yeah.
gonna feel it. Feel the
Yeah,
pinch.
my dad's 6 kids, bro. He was a police officer, had 6 kids, and my mom. He could not do it here. You know, I don't know how police officers with all those kids do it here.
Right.
You know, because they're just not making a wage and,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
a living wage.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and both parents have to work. And what happens when both parents have to work, bro?
Yeah.
The kids lack
Yeah, yeah.
an authority figure. The kids
Yeah,
lack
nurturing.
leadership.
Yeah.
You know, so where are they going to find that? They're going to find it in what they're attracted to.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're not attracted to the most healthy things,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
right? So as a kid gets attracted to something that's a little crazy,
Yeah.
you know, but
Yeah.
it's exciting.
Yeah. 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 This is my. I started. A lot of people don't know as a trauma expert and a trauma doctor. So I deal a lot with helping people with trauma and diagnosing and treating trauma and things of that nature. And I have a lot of different contracts throughout the nation. But I am happy to be able to do some work at home. So I just locked down the contract with Arizona Juvenile Detention Center, ADJC, represent the state, which is a state prison for kids, for youth,
Yeah.
for juveniles. And I was sharing with you, it was the first time I actually was really in a facility where I was locked down with him.
Come on, bro.
And I said, man, this has to be, I was really triggered. You know, I was like, wow, you know, surrounded by barbed wire and fencing and security gates and going through security checks with the staff and going into the facilities where I was locked in just like everyone else and doing my job. I said, wow, this is really, really crazy. The reason I bring it up is, you know, as we deal with incarceration, a lot of times we don't talk a lot about incarcerated youth. And that's what sometimes many of this stuff really starts, right?
Yeah.
If we don't break the vicious cycle of our young people going to school to prison, then they have a high probability of being in an adult facility, being in incarceration. So I've been charged, you know, and kudos to Governor Hobbs, taking the chance on me to come and do this work and create a whole new framework on trauma for the juvenile detention center, as far as the executive staff, as far as the supervisory staff, as far as support staff, psych staff, detention officers and prison guard staff, all the way down to they also got a school that's a prison, which is crazy to me, right? It's a literal prison. And I was there doing some work there. This time I came back, I was at the actual headquarters, so the environment was really, really different. But man, I just thought about you know, how your brain immediately start feeling that hyper arousal, right? You know, just, I felt it, you know, I was there and I was like, man, this is crazy, you know, but the thing about it was I knew at the end of my work, I could go home. So imagine people that when you're coming in with shackles and handcuffs on that bus, and to be brought into the prison, into custody and all of that, man, that was very, very crazy. So my work in the juvenile detention center is to assess the high levels of trauma in prison, right? So that was funny because several years ago I did a research on it. So I never thought that I'd actually be in the prison, actually doing the assessment, right? And it was remarkable because they already have their own psych doctors there, their own clinical psychologists and all of that. So it just really blew my mind how we have so much trauma. You got doctors there that's not even addressing it, right? And so pretty much my work is going in there, letting them know that, you know, until you deal with the brain dysfunction, you can't control nothing else. I mean, I was just cut and dry. Like, you want to stop these kids from bringing violence on each other. And, you know, I even had some detention officers that got injured by getting into fights and tussles with some of the incarcerated youth. You know, they angry, they pissed off at the world. And I was like, you won't be able, I mean, you can put them in a hole, you know, but you're not dealing with the mind, you're not dealing with the heart of the person if you don't deal with the dysfunction that comes from that trauma, right?
And if you don't have the capacity to have empathy, bro, then you have no place being there, okay? Because it's gonna take empathy to get to that individual that is fighting you at every turn. Because how do we defend ourselves, bro? We fight, and when you get in fight or flight, and you can't run, what do you got to do? You got to fight, bro. You know, there's a fence there.
And I did one of the things before I started because I was letting them know, okay, so there's a training piece where I got to train 320 people. That's the whole state staff, right? That's from the executive that's from the director all the way down, right? To its lowest ranking employee. Yes, 320 plus people that I got to train on trauma, and they got to get 4 different phases of my work, which is a lot of extensive work. Then I got to assess the culture and climate. So I'm doing not just a training piece, but I'm also coming into that space doing what I call a SWOT analysis. And the SWOT stands for strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. What are the strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the entire agency? So I have to grab staffers from all different departments of the prison, from support staff to detention officers to whatever, psychiatrists and all of that, and come together and say, okay, what is the agency's strengths? And spend some time on that. What is the agency's weaknesses? And crazy, but the funny thing that I saw was I only had about 3 strengths, and I probably had 20 weaknesses. Yeah. So you
That's honest.
immediately start getting a feel of the culture and climate, not just the inmates, but how staff felt, right? Bringing staff from different parts of the agency, from human resources to detention and corrections to training, and all come together. And some of the things I already began to see was weaknesses was down the list, and then when I got to opportunities down the list, because let's talk about how can the agency get better, how can the agency grow, and then the threats were very long too, and that was my wellness, my stress level. Threats was I'm afraid every time I go to work. You know, how many of you guys feel afraid? Most everybody feel afraid. Like, I don't know if I'm going to come back home, or if I'm going to come back injured, or, you know, all of those different. So I'm doing all of that too. So I'm doing like this pre-assessment work on how a staff is feeling. And then I got to do this survey far as the youth, the incarcerated youth too, as well, to say, hey, how do you feel about the facility?
Right.
You know, what are you getting from this facility? When you go to school, do you feel like your teachers do they care about you? They've been related. Yeah, so it's this big overhaul.
Comprehensive.
That never existed.
Right.
All they know is trauma informed.
Yeah.
So you get this doctor talking about, no, you need more than trauma informed. You need some trauma resilience, right? You got to build some resiliency, and get people to thriving and not just surviving. You know. So they bought into the framework. It took us a long time. You know, the Governor Hobbs' office that was providing for the grant and for the funding for us to do this work, was really trying to get a broad view of what this would look like, what it was take. But I told them it's going to take you 3 years. You know, so don't think there's some pie in the sky. It's going to really take some grounding. It's going to take some self-reflecting, some buy-in. And it's going to take some patience, and it's going to take you some hard freaking work too. And you got to shift that mindset of just being so punitive and just want to lock every kid up and throw away the key. No, we got to be more restorative in our approach, our policies. And then the other part I got to look at is I got to review all of their policies, which is a Bible. Yeah. Right?
Oh, yeah.
So
several.
So there's like several big things that I'm doing far as creating this scope of work for the Juvenile Detention Center. But it's also a great opportunity, because how many times you get someone that comes in that gives you the authority and say, create a scope of work, we're behind you, I want you to look at policy. If we got to review it, I'm paying you to review it. If you need to revise it, let's go back and revise it, because we want trauma resilient policies in the policies and procedures book on how we do things. And then we got HR saying, we need your expertise to be looking at when new employees come in. How are we addressing their wellness? Where can we get better as an HR department, making sure that new employees know that we value their wellness, the better equipped and well they are, the better they can perform, and all of those different things. So it's a really amazing opportunity to be able to do this, because if we can get this thing right in the next several years, maybe Arizona's creating a national model that we can duplicate in other states.
Yeah, and it is a roadblock to mass incarceration.
Yes, it is.
And for us in Arizona, where it is very, very difficult for us to change the sentencing code. Yeah. Because the sentencing code is all about punishment and mandatory and truth in sentencing. And let's put them away, right? Yeah. This keeps them from getting to the point where they ever get into that system.
It's a proactive strategy.
Right. Yeah. And I think back to when you trained the judges in the state, and to be empathy informed in their sentencing. Yeah. And with all of this stuff going on, bro, you have to believe that there are a great many hearts that are moving toward a belief that, 99.9% of the population is broken and needs help.
Yes. Yes.
Right? Yeah. Why don't we just get them the help?
Yeah. And then, my work too is, which I got a big movement in Washington, D.C., just jumping off right now, is that, my argument now as a trauma expert is that trauma is a matter of public health now. Yeah. It's not just, those mental health people over there, that's trauma. Yeah. Or, those black and brown people over there,
Yeah.
or that's trauma. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you know how we try to stereotype trauma,
Oh, yeah.
or those poor people over there, or those homeless people over there. No, trauma is a matter of public
Yeah.
health. And when we see it through a lens of public health, we kill the stereotypes
Yeah.
of trauma, right?
Yeah.
Because you can be white in a rural area off a farm and still have trauma, just as well as somebody in the hood in a
Yeah.
bad zip code in the inner city can have trauma. You understand what I'm
Oh,
saying?
yeah,
Like,
bro.
so we got to take those stereotypes on. Trauma is those people's problem. Trauma is all of our people problem, and
Yeah.
it's also a global epidemic.
Yeah, bro. And for me, what comes to mind is there's no racism in homelessness.
No, it's not.
So if you go to those camps, bro, there's no racism
Yeah,
in homelessness, but there is trauma.
There's trauma.
And
Yeah.
you can move from person to person
Yeah.
to person,
Yeah.
and you will rarely find
Yeah.
acute trauma.
yeah.
You will
Right.
find compound. You
Yeah.
will find complex. You
Yeah.
will find major
Yeah.
catastrophe in these
Yeah.
people's
Yeah.
lives,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they had no place to turn.
Yeah. And that's why I say it's a matter of public health. Because when I look at the research, most of all of our societal chronic issues, root causes goes back to trauma. If you're trying to fix the opioid,
Fentanyl.
fentanyl,
Yeah.
if you're trying to fix that
Come on.
issue, you're not really putting a dent in that until
No.
you go back to the root cause by
Right.
why they are self-medicating and coping
Yeah.
is they're using fentanyl and they're using opioids and substance abuse to cope with a trauma that they are not ready to
Right.
deal with.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a solution to a problem that you don't have the actual solution to, but it's your best solution.
Yeah. And you
To-
walk
to-
away with two problems now.
Yes.
So you still got the
Yes.
same trauma that you never identified and healed
Right.
from, and now you got an addiction.
And now you got a homeostasis,
Yeah,
which is
That's
just
exactly right.
blown out.
Yeah, and when your frontal lobe is hijacked because of your addiction, because of you on drugs, now you make these stupid decisions and choices, and that may even mean breaking a law,
Yeah.
and now you find yourself in prison. You
Yeah.
know, and so even when we deal with a lot of incarcerated issues, I am telling you, if you peel the layers of the onion, you're gonna find some trauma as the root
Yeah.
of many people who are in prison today, and no one came out of their mother's womb, said, I want to be a crackhead or a
Yeah.
meth head
Yeah.
for
And
my
go to
life. And I
prison
want to
and
be
spend- yeah.
homeless. I want to be incarcerated for 30, 40 years,
Yeah.
you know, when I grow up. No one thinks like that. But life sometimes get the life in.
Yeah.
And when life get the really life in, that's why I tell people, you got to be very, very careful when you say, I could never do that. You'd be surprised what you found yourself to do when you're not in your right mind.
Oh my God! I was just talking
Right?
to somebody. If you are put in the proper
You put in the
environment,
right
with
situation.
all the things coming at you, you don't know how
You'd
you're
be
going to act.
surprised.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised where you find
Yeah.
yourself at. You find yourself
Yeah.
under a gutter somewhere, you know. So that's why I always say, man, that when we're looking at trauma, it is a matter of public health.
Yeah.
And just because the Surgeon General has not said it yet,
Yeah.
does not mean it's not a matter of public health. Just because CNN and ABC, CBS, and NBC has not made a big documentary or a breaking news scenario about trauma at this level, does not mean it's not a matter of public health. It is a matter
Jesus,
of
bro.
public
Look
health.
at Kingston. Look at Martin Luther King Highway.
Yeah.
Look at where these homeless are just laid
All over.
out, bro.
All over.
And the tens of thousands
Yeah.
of people.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
what put them there?
yeah.
You know, it wasn't finances. It wasn't this. It
Yeah.
wasn't. It was trauma,
It's
bro.
trauma, man.
And it's not being able to handle life
Yeah,
when you are so dysregulated.
Yeah.
When everything's coming at you and you
Yeah.
believe that this is your lot.
yeah, yeah,
This is what I got coming in life.
yeah, yeah.
You don't fight back.
Yeah, yeah. What we're turning into is a hyper-vigilant nation in a hyper-vigilant world. Our communities are hyper-vigilant. And it doesn't matter if you're white, it doesn't matter if you're black, Latino, it doesn't matter if you're native,
That's right.
it doesn't matter what your social economical status are. When trauma hits, it hits.
Yeah.
And you can be in Chicago where there's a lot of bullets flying with murders all over the place.
Yeah.
Or you can be in a white rural area where your kid is on the honor roll. But yet they're cutting themselves, and they
Yeah.
got bulimia, and they doing self-harm. So this is the reason why we have to make sure that we don't stereotype trauma to be a race or a culture or ethnicity. It is a matter of public health, and trauma is not prejudice
Yeah.
at all.
And people get trauma from something that's happening in a complete other city, bro.
Yeah,
But
exposure.
from the mass, the weather issues, the mass shootings, all of those things.
Yeah.
There's people in other
Yeah.
states that are in no way attached to this.
Yeah.
They're receiving trauma over it.
Yeah.
Whether it's perceived or whether it's real, bro,
Yeah.
it's trauma.
It's called
And
exposure, right?
Yeah.
So there's the 3 E's of trauma. So when I teach, I talk about the experience of trauma, the event of trauma, and the exposure. Now, we know about the experience and event because
Yeah.
most of us that have some level of trauma, it comes under those
Yeah.
2 E's. Either
Yeah.
it was an event that was traumatic or an experience that was traumatic. But what we fail to realize is that the brain can still be just as traumatized, even though you didn't have a direct event or experience of it, but direct exposure, indirect exposure still can traumatize you. If you
Yeah.
keep seeing natural disasters, you keep seeing earthquakes, you keep seeing tsunamis, you keep
Yeah.
seeing hurricanes,
Yeah.
you
You
keep
get a
seeing
belief.
yeah, exactly. You know, we just seen the CEO of United just
Oh.
get slaughtered just
Yeah.
a couple days ago, right in the middle of New York, broad daylight. Just exposure to violence, man, can impact trauma. But this is a good thing because I don't want to be doom and gloom. The good thing is we can rewire the brain for healing, right? Through neuroplasticity, right? We can rewire the brain to learn new habits and to change. So we also want to leave you with some good news of hope and optimism is that you can heal from trauma. So you hear me say trauma may not be your fault, but it is your responsibility to heal from trauma because we continue to bleed on people that didn't cut us. So let's stop hemorrhaging. Let's stop bleeding on others. Let's stop making other people pay for a debt that somebody else wrote the check, right?
Yeah.
We can do that by facing the facts, stop being in denial, stop blaming everybody for what has happened, and take some ownership and accountability.
And open your mouth.
Yeah.
Open your mouth because the closed mouth don't get fed, bro.
Yeah.
And if we
Yeah.
don't ask for the help that we need, we're not going to get the help we
Yeah.
need. And we're going to continue to do it the way we've always
Yeah.
done it.
Yeah.
And what
Yeah.
happens then? We end up going back to where we've always gone
Yeah.
back to. And that's
Yeah.
why at the orientation, 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and they're raising their hand.
Yeah.
Why, bro?
Yeah.
Because they won't open their mouth,
Yeah.
man. Because they won't deal with what put them in the place that put them in the place that
Yeah.
put them in the joint.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it's not something put you there and you go to prison.
Yeah.
You know, like you're saying, the addictions are a symptom
Yes,
of
that's
the
right. That's
actual
right.
problem.
That's right.
When we start to deal with the actual problem in
Yeah.
a healthy way,
Yeah.
the symptoms start to fade away.
That's right.
And we start to move forward in an upright position, right?
Yeah, yeah.
We're not sitting down anymore. We're not kneeling down anymore.
Yeah.
We're not bowed down anymore.
Yeah.
We're standing up.
And then as we close up, we got a few minutes. Is that our brothers and sisters who are incarcerated? It's not just about getting a job and getting some money,
Yeah.
and you're going to need those things. So that's not what I'm saying. But I really believe that as I'm talking to members of Congress right now, talking about policy, this is a public health thing. Is that when our incarcerated brothers and sisters come out, the number one thing we need to be making sure is they get on some Medicaid
Yeah.
so they can get psych
Yeah.
help, get
Yeah.
psychiatric help, get mental help. And we're
Yes.
not doing that enough. We just
No.
say, hey, just go to a job fair and don't get me wrong, you need that, right?
Yeah.
You need income, you need a roof over
Yeah.
your head. But one of the first things I strongly believe that incarcerated people need to be doing is when they get out, they need to immediately start applying for Medicaid
Yeah.
so they can get insurance, so they can get
Yeah.
a therapist, so they can get some psych help,
Yeah.
get that healing from your trauma in your brain
Yeah.
so that your life can change. You cannot change your life if you don't heal your brain.
The Arizona Department of Corrections, when you enter the
Yeah.
system, they run you through the MMPI,
Yeah.
right? You do all of this psychological testing and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But to send you home, bro,
Yeah.
there ain't no testing.
Yeah.
We
yeah.
just open the gate.
Yeah. Yeah.
After we did this to you for this period of time and
Yeah.
treated you this way,
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
just going to open the gate
Yeah.
and give you your $100 kick out.
Yeah.
Make it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. We're going to have to come back and revisit this conversation, but we got to do better on making sure our brothers and sisters are getting the help. So what are some other things going on in the community?
Well, we're going to start with the Market on the Move, bro, and that's going to be the second Saturday. I'll probably do it this second Saturday, next Saturday, but I'll give the location at that time. But we're going to be doing it at Zion City on Ajo and Mission.
All right, you heard it. So go out to Zion and get those resources that you need. We're counting down. We want to thank everybody for joining us on Fresh Start show on this Saturday. Hope everything will begin to be all right. Want to thank Frederick for sending us his letter. We got your letter, bro. So don't think it's just going nowhere. We got it. So y'all have a great weekend.
Amen.
Take care and have a great Fresh Start.